day.
This was my demo for last Monday. I have in-person classes, so here I'm doing the initial drawing
here that I'm going to make
with
sure I
the
keep light.
pastel pencil.
And we've got the trees.
I do a very quick drawing.
And we've got all of this here.
It's a Carbothello pastel pencil, and it's a light blue. So it's kind of like planning my painting. I'm looking at composition, big shapes, kind of planning what I'm going to do. And now I'm starting to mix the color, and I'm going to do the back trees. So I'm just seeing them as big shapes. And one of my students asked me about my brushwork. Now I'm kind of not pressing really hard, and I'm going to be leaving white spaces between my colors until I'm more sure of that the colors are as accurate as I could get them. So I'm varying the way I'm holding my brush, how I'm putting the brushwork down. And I have a fair amount of paint on the brush. I just use mineral spirits to clean my brush. I don't really use them to thin my paints. I do have some fast drying, what is it? I forget what it's called. Hang on a minute, I'm going to look at. Yeah, it's fast drying poppy seed oil, and that's if my paint is a little bit too thick, I might dip my brush in and thin my paint a little bit. Okay, so now I'm putting some warm in the sky with the intention of later on I'm going to come in with blue, the same value. This is a gray day study, so the sky is the lightest light. So I have to be aware of that throughout the painting. Okay, so I'm mixing the hill in the background. I'm still leaving those white spaces. I don't fill the white spaces. I don't bring the white spaces together till the second layer. Then I start bringing them together. This is like my my underpainting. It's the structure and form under the painting. So I'm using the same brush. At some point I'm going to change brushes, but I'm loading my brush. And see how I changed the way I put the brush strokes in to add a little bit of interest. At this point I kind of feel like I'm doing a dance. I mean, I don't know if this makes sense, but I really am not. I'm comparing one color note to the next color. I'm making sure that I don't repeat a color. And I'm just what I refer to as just playing my musical instrument. I don't really have to think about it. I have my piano keys, my paints in the same place. I know where to get the paint I need. So I'm just going one color note to the next, and comparing. So here's some reeds here that I'm going to start off warm, and then later on I'm going to cool them down a bit. They're a little bit too warm to be on a light plane on a gray day. I'm also organizing my lights and my shadows. See, there's a shadow right there, a shadow note. On a gray day, there's not the value change between shadow and light. These are kind of all backlit. Then I have kind of a path leading into the painting. I always start on a white canvas. Well, this is a gesso board, ampersand gesso boards. So this is much lighter, so it comes forward. And I've overcolored so that when I come down to cool some of these colors down, I'm not going to lose the intensity, the saturation of the colors. Now I thought that was a little bit too red compared to that middle red in the middle ground, so I made it a little bit cooler, greener. And then there's a dark patch right here that I'm looking at, those, relating this to the back trees. Still leaving white spaces between my colors.
Okay, so that's my lay-in.
Okay, so I've covered the canvas. It was probably 20 minutes, something like that, 25 minutes for the first lay-in. It might even be less time. Now I'm going to come in and reconsider colors, tame the sky down because the sky really isn't that red. I'm going to come in with some local color. Now I've really loaded my brush, so when I put a color on top of this, I might pick up some color from the bottom to have it a little bit warm, but I'm really putting it on top of the colors. And I really have loaded my brush here so that I'm not picking up too much of the color. I'm not mixing it in. I used a little bit of permanent magenta. I thought it was a little bit too blue. It was bluer down there, and then it gets a little bit redder, or a little bit, like a permanent magenta towards the top of the sky there. And this board, I'm going to, at some point, saw it in half. I'm doing half a 9 by 12. So I'm going to go to the light part of the sky, so I'm going to make sure that my brush is clean. I probably cleaned it with the mineral spirits. So I'm adding a lot of white, and I'm going to go into the light part of the sky there. There's some clouds, and then there's a little bit of clearing right near the horizon. I think now I'm going to go back, and that kind of rust color, I'm going to cool that down a bit. Not yet, I guess. I'm still putting in the back hills. So as I'm modeling the form or changing the color, making it closer to what I see, I'm always relating colors, so I make sure that I'm not repeating a color, that I'm still painting the difference between the color notes. So I'm just lightly putting my brush down back there because I'm starting to define those back trees. So I have a lighter touch on my brush. And then I can use my palette knife to scrape it because I'm trying to get that horizon line to be straight. I'm softening the edges there. I thought the edges were a little bit too hard. And a little bit of a color change. So there's like a green patch back there. I'm just putting in a cool green. So I'm cooling that down a bit because it is a gray day study. Now on a gray day, the light planes have a tendency of being cooler than the shadow notes. I mean, there's not a drastic difference, but there is a difference between the light plane and the shadow notes. So those shadow notes are a little bit warmer. Making this also cooler, still darker than the sky. But because I had that intensity of color down first, when I cooled it down, I didn't lose the color note. It still has a lot of nice saturated color, which you get on a gray day because it's not bleached out by the sun. So there was some cool grass, like right over there, so I'm cooling that down. And then see how I change my brushwork. I'm not using the brush in the same way throughout the painting. It depends on what I'm painting. Now here's a fan brush that I'm going to just get into a little bit. You don't want that all over, but maybe in certain places. Because you want variety of brushwork, variety of texture, variety of color. That's all a part of a good painting. Variety of shape. So I'm putting in some shadow notes there. Like I said, it's all backlit, and I'm breaking up some of those big shapes back there. and filling in the white spaces. I'm feeling more confident, so I can start filling in those white spaces. Not really pressing too hard, I'm just putting paint on top. And I think brushwork is just something that you develop over time. You know, it's like you will develop, the more you paint, the more you'll develop your own brushwork. I'm going to pick up a rigger now, and I kind of fill it with paint. And squinch it down, and I can get some other strokes. If you can see, I'm only going to do that in certain places. I'm not going to do that all over. And that's a rigger that I've kind of squinched up and created another tool will give you different brush strokes. So now I'm back to my fan brush. Near the end, I'll start using different brushes. Soften edges. So I'll get to a certain point. This is a demonstration, so I'll get to a certain point, and then I'll take it into the studio and finish it, and I will then post it on my Instagram account. Now I thought the sky was a little bit too textural, so I'm kind of flattening out the texture in the sky. Because that's a bank of clouds, and then there's the really light part of the sky coming through. But see, the sky still is lighter than anything on the ground. I call that the sky-ground relationship. So when you start, you should, and you can see it even in the back that's not, you can see the sky is lighter than anything on the ground. I think I get in at some point to make the light part of the sky even lighter. Well, I want to thank everybody who's watching. Thanks for watching. I try to post these demos every Wednesday. It's Thursday. I didn't get to it till Thursday. And sometimes I just do like a recording, and then sometimes I have somebody actually come in and film this, so we can get more close-ups and get some shots of me mixing paint. But I'm trying to lead you through my process, talk about what I do, what I'm thinking about when I'm painting, and I hope this has helped you. So I ask you to subscribe to my YouTube. if you appreciate this content. So here I'm making the sky lighter and probably a little bit cooler. But here I really load the brush, so when I put it down, I really can get a light, because it was a little bit muddy there, so I really loaded my brush and put the paint on top. Like I say, I'm going to finish this painting and I'll put it on my Instagram when it's done. I'll take it back to the studio. So now I think I'm making that a little bit, changing the color as before it hits the sky. So there's like a color change from the sky to the tree to the darker part. Softening that edge there. There's a little bit of fog over there.
Okay, so now I'm just going to fill in all these white spaces. And I'll take it back to the studio and, sign it and look at it and maybe change it, but
are you going to develop the front anymore? Are you going to leave it a little out
Okay, well that's it. Thanks for watching.
I may put a few